For more on this conversation, we're joined by Shameema Kolia, who's the General Manager of the Humanitarian Aid Consultation and Solutions. Shameema, good to have you on the program this evening. Firstly, how has the Gaza-Israel humanitarian crisis evolved over time, and what are the current challenges on the ground?
Good evening to all of you. Look, it's evolving in the sense that there is still aid trickling in through the Rafah border, and we know in the last few days the Kerem Shalom border has also opened, but what we've seen then is less aid getting through the Rafah border, but still it's nowhere near enough. We're still only averaging about 100 trucks of aid going through, and some days it's even less than that. And the situation on the ground in Gaza has gone beyond what we can actually imagine. So we've got the IPC, which really is the index of food security in the world, going, this is beyond phase 5, which is the highest level that you can actually get. It's the catastrophic level of food insecurity, which means that people, no matter what they do and try, they cannot actually get enough food to feed their families, and it is a famine.
So in your role as the General Manager of Humanitarian Aid Consultation and Solutions, can you share specific initiatives or projects aimed at really addressing the needs in the region?
Look, we're trying our best to be able to meet the needs where we can. There isn't a shortage of organizations, of people, of countries willing to actually do it. You know, it's the first time in life that money is not actually the issue. The issue is actually getting aid into Gaza. We've got the UN Security Council who's passed Resolution 2722, which is saying that we urgently need to increase the amount of humanitarian aid getting into Gaza. But what it really means in the reality is nothing, because it's not calling for a ceasefire. It doesn't facilitate any more aid actually going through. And we know that if we don't get enough or any more aid through, we're going to see large amounts of people dying of starvation besides just being in a war zone. So on the ground, we're facilitating trucks of aid going through. We're putting in water, food, medical supplies, medical equipment, blankets, tents, winter kits. It's really cold. We've seen places in Gaza flooding. So we have all of the needs there. It's just about how many trucks will be able to go through. There's trucks waiting at the border still, hoping to actually get through every single day.
So what role do you believe international organizations and governments should be playing at a time like this in finding a sustainable solution to this crisis?
Look, we have to call an end to this. It cannot be sustained. We're 80 days in. It cannot actually be sustained. And if the war doesn't actually stop, we have to allow for a humanitarian corridor for us to actually get aid in every single day. Just to be able to sustain the population in just terms of medical, shelter and food. It's the basic necessities, which is a human right to every human being. Where is the international community? And that stand needs to be taken by world leaders. And it has to happen now. We cannot wait any longer. The people of Gaza have no more choice.
So what key message or even call would you like to bring to action? Which message would you like our audience to take away regarding the Gaza-Israel humanitarian crisis there?
No matter where we are in the world, all of us have a role to play. We have a role to play in getting the right information and disseminating that, on calling for our governments to actually take a strong action. We come from South Africa, and we've seen that if we stand up together and we stand against with world leaders, if we stand against things like apartheid, we can make a difference. We shouldn't actually think as just the average human being that we don't have a role to play. And if all of us put that pressure on our governments across the world, we have to call an end to this. And I guess that's my only message. We cannot, on our watch this happen. We cannot let this happen to Gaza or anywhere else in the world on our watch.
I guess it then also begs the question as to how can individuals and communities actually contribute to your organization's efforts, or even try to support initiatives addressing this crisis?
There's many reputable organizations within South Africa, and we're working with a number of them. I always say, look at the history of the organization. They need to be registered with your organization, with your government. They need to go through their financials, ask the questions, and ask them what they are doing for Gaza right now. We've just seen last week, the African Muslim Agency came through with convoys of aid going into, and it was lovely to meet them, and they're so passionate about it. But there's plenty of organizations within South Africa contributing to these efforts and getting their aid into Gaza. So do look out for them, support them, and everyone can play a role in this.
Everyone can play a role. But Shameema, what steps do you think are crucial for really fostering long-term stability and peace in that region?
Look, that's a really big question, which I don't think I'm qualified to answer. But, I think that we really need to start looking at it from a human-to-human perspective. I guess that is within my scope and my power, and love for one another what we love for ourselves. And, we need to actually get governments to start embodying these values, these human values, and I think that we'll see a difference in the world.
We also heard from high-profile individuals such as Pope Francis as well speaking on this particular issue, but also calling for dialogue to find a peaceful resolution to this conflict that we are seeing there. What do you make of some of the diplomacy or dialogue efforts that are being heard there?
Look, I don't think it's anywhere near enough. For as long as I'm alive, the Israel-Palestine conflict has always been there. So we will always call for dialogue. We'll always call for that. But until we actually see each other as human beings, I don't think that a genocide can happen without us actually seeing a human being. And if we see each other's humanity, I believe that dialogue then needs to take a further action into action and embody those values of that dialogue. And I think that we have to remain hopeful in all of this so that we can actually see a brighter future.
But on a personal level, Shameema, how has the Gaza-Israel situation impacted your beliefs or attitudes towards a conflict resolution?
Look, I've been in the space of international development and aid for a long time. I see it as a human conflict. It's really hard to be able to watch, to be so close and to be so helpless, And the Syria war was not long ago, and we could be so active on being there and making that difference, and aid was available, and we got to do whatever it took to help where we could. To be able to have every resource at our hands and not be able to get food to people just across the border when we have all of that food, it breaks my heart, and I struggle with it every single day.
And Shameema, looking forward, what are your hopes for a peaceful resolution to this conflict?
I'm hoping that we can have a ceasefire now. I'm hoping that we can stop this, and I'm hoping that we allow the international community to go into Gaza and to repair, rebuild, and get the people what they actually need.
Shameema, let me thank you for your time. That was Shameema Kolia. She's the General Manager of the Humanitarian Aid, Consultation and Solutions, also calling for peace or a ceasefire on that conflict in Gaza.